Quiet in the house.
At a rehearsal of the TV show Dear John, Kirk, the character who takes sleazy to new depths, is tackling the opposite sex question with his usual sensitivity.
Now I keep picturing you in a bra and a jockstrap.
I'm definitely going to bed.
I read the book.
New men, old pain. Geez, Frank, did you actually pay for that?
And Murphy Brown, who's been known to take target practice at the opposite sex, in this episode takes aim right at the heart of the new men's movement.
I can't stand it anymore. I've been locked up with you crybabies for 6 hours and I still don't get this movement.
Okay, yeah.
These men in Chicago have heard all the put-downs about the new men's movement.
It's relatively new. It can be easily mocked, by the way. All of it can be easily made fun of, but we're not afraid of that.
They're not actors, and the dialogue, unlike the Hollywood version, isn't funny.
I want to be listened to by a woman, and I want them not to take what I said and stick it in my face.
I can trust men right now more than I can trust women.
The movement, in truth, really isn't much of a movement. There aren't a lot of men in it. And those who are hardly represent a cross-section of American men. They're mostly white, mostly well-educated, mostly professional, and some say mostly full of baloney.
So why is there a men's movement at all these days?
There's a great need for us as men to get together and support one another and talk about our lives.
An ex-Marine named Asa Baber heads the group. He writes for a magazine in Chicago, Playboy magazine, where he writes the men column, arguing that men, contrary to popular myth, hardly have all the power in America.
Over all of these years, a lot of times, the feminists have stood up and taken just a nice little dropper of poison and put it into the pool of rhetoric. What I'm concerned about is that as a nation, as a culture, we are literally swallowing these images of men and women, the oppressed woman and the evil man. It's just drummed into our consciousness.
And if you think Baber is just one of those oversensitive males, consider this.
When hubby is a lazy bum, next Sally.
See, but I set the rules in my house. Either you do the job or you get out.
It is a mean-spirited and unfair vision of manhood.
There is something wrong with men. They're childish, they're immature, they do not want to have any long-term relationships.
It's in the rhetoric, it's in the writings, it's in the speeches, it's in the interrogations on the talk shows.
Investigating the rage of men, the violence against women. That's the focus of this edition of Geraldo.
We don't want to have the prejudice against us that by definition, as men, we are not nice people.
And why do you guys need a movement in the first place? Tired of getting higher pay for the same jobs?
That may be funny on TV, but Baber says it's no laughing matter in real life.
My dad didn't have a college degree. He was demoted and fired and not kept alive in corporate America all his life. Men have problems too. We get fired. We lose our kids in divorce. We get socked with very heavy payments that possibly aren't fair in divorce and child custody situations.
All right, quiet in the house, please. Here we go.
Back in Hollywood, in the world of situation comedies, the battle of the sexes is played strictly for laughs.
But I don't want you telling all the other women here at the center where I'm going to be living because I don't want 1,000 broads coming over there.
I'm picturing Sissy Spacek.
Cynthia Heimel is a story editor on Dear John and a feminist who also writes about men and women. In fact, she writes for Playboy, one page away from Asa Baber.
You don't think men have been bashed? And there's a whole other side on that question, you know.
Well, I think that men have been, in some cases, justifiably bashed. I think they were pigs for a while. I mean, I think they did think that they were just going to get to have their way and everything, and they were going to come home and get that dinner on the table at 6 o'clock, and Mabel, nobody really cares what you think.
You've talked about feminism being tinged, I think is the word you use, with sexism. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I mean that the feminist movement, which was an absolutely necessary movement, it had to happen, and we're renegotiating a social contract, quickly turned into, I believe, a very angry and anti-male movement.
Asa sees everything as feminism gone mad. Asa sees feminists coming out at him from behind every tree.
I mean, you just think he's imagining things.
Yeah.
You really do?
Yeah. We're not a threat. We're not a threat.
Background. Action.
Of course there's been male bashing, but there's been a lot of woman bashing, and a lot of it has really pissed me off.
I think most of us understand that the old social contract was not fair. It's not fair to lock a woman out of a job because she's a woman. I happen to think it's also not fair to put her in the job just because she's a woman.
We don't want to be sex objects. Men don't want to be success objects.
Precisely. And that's
So,
okay with you?
That's fine with me.
I think right here and right now, if we don't bring the image of men into a better light, we're completely screwed as a nation.
Thelma! Louise! Thelma! Louise! Thelma! Thelma! Look! In the car!
And we haven't even mentioned Thelma and Louise, this year's female bonding fantasy, where just about every man is just about every woman's worst nightmare. Maybe it's a good thing we didn't mention Thelma and Louise.